I'm actually going to move this here.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to our Rush Generations Healthy Again lecture. We're so glad you found your way here, whether you've joined in over the phone or if you're over here on YouTube. I'm Jasmine Chandy. I am the program coordinator for Rush Generations lectures. And for those of you who might be new to Rush Generations, welcome. Rush Generations is a health and wellness program that's all about aging as best as we can. So we have lectures like this one, as well as workshops and fitness classes, support groups, and tons of great activities. So if you'd like more information, we're going to share some of that at the end of this lecture. So if you want to get a pen out or a pencil out at the end of the lecture, we will be sharing some upcoming programs and how you can stay connected. And for any questions you may have throughout this lecture, if you're on YouTube, you can put that in the chat box. So on YouTube, if you are on YouTube on your computer, you're going to see that chat box on the right side. If you've joined in on a tablet, you're going to see that chat box under the screen. So wherever it is, anytime throughout the lecture, you can add in any comments or questions for our speaker there. And for those of you who've joined in over the phone, at the end when we have our Q&A portion, we will give you the opportunity to unmute yourself and share a question if you have one. And so without further ado, we're going to introduce our speaker, who may look familiar because she spoke with us last year as well. And I know many of you really enjoyed that talk. So this is Kristen. Kristen is a master's prepared advanced clinical dietitian at Rush University Medical Center and has worked in the field of nutrition for over 20 years. She is one of only 26 certified specialists in gerontological nutrition, an instructor at Rush University and member of the Rush University Medical Center Integrated Cognitive Behavioral Movement Disorder Clinic. Her passion is translating complex nutrition research into usable information and presenting it to various media outlets, groups, organizations, and at national conferences. So we're very happy to have you here. And without further ado, Kristen is going to go ahead and get started.
Thank you very much for having me today. Welcome, everybody. It's exciting for all of you out there in the cyber world to be here today and to share how to be healthy again. Now, some of you over the last year may have done a phenomenal job and kept up with your nutritional health, kept up with your physical activity, while others may not have. And whether we have a pandemic going on or not, this is something that happens to all of us from year to year, month to month. And today we're really going to focus on, no matter where you are, how you can be healthy again. And if you are doing a pretty good job, then hopefully this lecture will provide you with a couple extra tips of things to include, a few different ways to look at some things. And in the end, I really hope that everybody can really embrace a healthy lifestyle. Now, today is actually National Dietitians Day, and March is National Nutrition Month. So we have a lot to celebrate in my arena of the world in nutritional health. And the National Nutrition Month slogan this year is personalizing your plate. And I have to say that over the decades that I've been a dietitian, I think that is the key element to a healthy diet. Because if you do not personalize what you eat, you may be able to sustain a healthy diet for some time, but at some point you are probably going to migrate back to the foods that you are comfortable with, that you enjoy, and sometimes those are healthy, but we want to make sure we take the unhealthy foods and either find healthy alternatives to them or ways to potentially prepare them that you may even love more than you did in the first place. I remember years ago, my husband finally asked me, how come you always order a salad when we go out to eat? Are you just trying to be a dietitian? And I said, well, no. I said, making a really good salad takes some prep sometimes. And I love when somebody else makes my salad. And many of you probably think or have said before that a sandwich tastes better when somebody else makes it. Well, we don't always have the luxury of somebody else making it. So I also want to really emphasize that that salad or that sandwich isn't that hard to make healthy. If you just have some conveniently located things in your refrigerator. And what I mean by that is things that are going to catch your eye, not a container that's opaque where you can't really see what's in it. And little tricks like that can make or break a healthy lifestyle. So our objectives today, we're going to try to identify at least 3 simple steps to getting you back on track and really maintaining that healthy lifestyle. Hopefully you'll be able to name 2 resources that you can improve your eating style. And I know this is recorded today, so you may be able to even refer back to this presentation in the future or share it with a friend. And then explain how to use the nutrition facts label to make your informed food and beverages decisions. And now I really want to call out the word beverage there, because a lot of people still forget that beverages can be very calorie dense, not necessarily nutrient dense, but they can really contribute a lot of empty calories in your diet that you may not be that conscientious of. Okay? So first and foremost, we're going to keep it to small changes. We like things to go simple and small. And you don't have to do everything all at one time. I know usually I probably hear the biggest pitfall people say is, I'm going to just eat everything up that's not healthy in my cupboards, and then I'll start healthy. And really, that's not the best approach, because you're not really laying a foundation of what you're going to replace it with. So you don't want to get your cupboards to empty and then replace it with foods that you may or may not like. It's also very costly. A better approach is taking maybe one item that you have in your pantry that you know should be substituted and switching that one out. And over time, slowly evolve your pantry and your refrigerator, your freezer, all your foods that are accessible to you to a healthy lifestyle. And that's going to be a slower approach, but it's going to be a winning approach. Okay? So we want to eat a variety of nutritious foods every day. And it doesn't have to be all nutritious every single day. But when you reflect back, say on a month's time, you want to really think about, did I incorporate all the different food groups that I should? Am I staying hydrated? In fact, dehydration is one of the most prevalent problems with older adults. Not only do we not have as much muscle that holds on to the water, but we don't have the best thirst receptors. So by the time you actually feel thirsty, you've already been dehydrated for some time. And if you're taking multiple medications, each one of those medications requires more fluid for your kidneys and your liver and your body to process those out of your system and into your body. So you may need to increase your hydration even above what you think you normally would need. We are, like I had mentioned, going to talk a little bit about the fact label. That might be some of the Q&A questions too. I think even the most well-versed dietitian sometimes has a hard time reading the food label. And then you want to practice portion control. And I have some slides here today that's going to just remind us how simple it can be to separate your plate out. Even the size of the plate that you use may need to change depending on your approach to healthy living, and taking time to enjoy your food. Now, I know during this time in our life and in the world and in history, a lot of us are in a different eating environment. For the most part, we are at home, and that could either be a good thing or a detriment into the way you're eating. I know when I've been working from home, depending on the weather or what other activities are going on, the refrigerator is constantly in my arm's reach. With it just a few steps, I can actually get food from my cupboards, my pantries, versus when you're out and about, you have to be much more conscientious of taking money out, buying it, finding a store. You potentially are more limited, or there's more robust choices at your fingertips on a regular basis. So you really want to think about what's in the house or what's at your disposal, and then say, am I enjoying this? I think it's a big misconception that dietitians get pegged with, is that we don't want you to enjoy your food. We want you just to eat healthy. And a good dietitian is going to help you find that nice balance where you can enjoy the food you eat and they really are tasty. But sometimes, depending on where you are, what kind of cook you are or not cook you are, that picture is going to look differently. And that's why we need to personalize it for each and every one of us. Okay. You want to plan your meals about a week out. And it really helps to prepare for days ahead, meal preparation. It helps with food waste. So if you really look at your week ahead and you're very realistic that I know that I have maybe a lot of doctor's appointments, or I have to go run some errands, that you're maybe not going to be cooking as much during the week. So you may want to buy the ingredients for certain things, prepare them earlier on, or have them in the house for when you get back. You want to make sure that you're just not waiting to the last minute and then not being able to make a good choice because you don't have any choices available to you. Going to the grocery store with a list is always a good idea, and not going hungry. I know that a lot of us have started to order food over the internet, or people have gone grocery shopping for you. So this dynamic, as far as that grocery list of all times in my career, has really shifted. When you're ordering things online, again, depending on your demeanor, you may end up filling your grocery cart with a lot of new things because you didn't have to walk up and down the aisles, and it was just really easy to click. For others, it's very unnerving to order food online. So you may have been really rigid and actually maybe over restricted the food you choose because they were more safe and comfortable in your mind. Some people, if you were ordering groceries online or having other people buy them, really shifted the way they bought produce, whether they bought it or at all, because they didn't like the fact that they couldn't touch it and pick it. And people would get, a bad banana bunch or not the brand of apples that they liked. So all of these things over the last year have really shifted a little bit. But what it comes down to it is the planning part, whether we're in a pandemic or not, is going to help guide your healthy diet the rest of the year. And we don't want to forget, and I think now that people are coming back into the hospital for doctor's visits, this is just so at the forefront of my mind. I've even made it more bold that if you're going to the doctor, if you're going to be running errands and you're out and about, sometimes things take a little longer than you anticipate. So always pack a healthy snack with you, and always, always, always bring some water with you. This was a pre-COVID recommendation, and even more now, the access to food when you go to a medical center or you go to even the mall, a lot of things have shifted, and you need to be certain that you have food with you. You want to make sure if you're going to be having to take a medication, that you're taking that medication with you just in case, because sometimes things take longer right now. Or you used to be able to sit in a waiting room and now you have to sit in your car or out in the lobby. So your surroundings and environment are changing as well. And then if you are traveling, which again, people are starting to, open up and be visiting families. If you've gotten the vaccine, phenomenal. If not, I pray you get it soon and have access to it. But as you start to travel, planning those healthy meals with you, or at least looking ahead to what your resources will be along the way, are critical pieces. And it doesn't mean you have to make, painful choices. It's just planning ahead so you know that you're going to be the best you and stay on that healthy track while you're beginning to enjoy life again a little bit differently. And as this weather is really calling our names outside, thinking about eating outside and picnicking and how your food preparations and even your food choices are going to shift again. And I know if you're like me, it's very liberating to have this snow melt and be able to walk outside without fear of falling on ice and even sitting outside for a picnic. And then we're going to touch on, a little bit of skills and creative tasting your meals. So keeping those ingredients on hand, practicing proper food safety. I think this year people are a little more heightened with food safety, but no matter what, when we're at home, people tend to get a little lax in their food safety department. So you really want to make sure you have a food thermometer and you're using it, that you're checking the temperatures of your refrigerator and your freezer and that they're working appropriately. When you microwave food, taking the temperature of it. I know some people are a little better about checking food that comes out of an oven, but in the microwave, a lot of people just think it's safe no matter what. And if you notice a lot of the packaging or recipe recommendations, you may heat something and then it recommends stirring and heating more. So you really want to make sure that you're following that food safety piece in all of your cooking. And if you're going to be sharing meals again and being together with family, you want to make sure that you don't share spoons, don't share utensils. We really want to hone in on and not lose any footing as far as our health and well-being in this category. Reducing your food waste, again, planning meals ahead. How are you going to use leftovers? I think one of the best things that I started to do with leftovers to reduce food waste was freeze them. I learned early on in my marriage, now I've been married almost 21 years, that my husband hates leftovers. And if we tried to eat it the next day, he was just like, oh, it was just not fun, even if it was a great meal the night before. So what I started to do is I say, okay, well, we'll wait a couple of days and then inevitably life would get busy and then we'd end up wasting the food. So I wised up, and after that one meal, I usually froze it into another meal serving size or maybe a lunch size that I might bring with me or pull out for myself or him. And it really trimmed back on the food waste because once we pulled it out maybe a week or so later, it tasted like a new preparation of it versus just a leftover. And trying new flavors and foods. Again, depending on where you are with going to the grocery store or ordering things online and things, sometimes this is a little tricky. But I find that you probably have a lot of flavors in your house that you've never even tried. I got a spice rack for my wedding, actually, almost 21 years ago. And there's still some spices in there that they're dry. They haven't really gone bad. They won't have much flavor in them anymore, though, because while spices don't necessarily become dangerous to consume, they do lose their flavor. And if it's something like garlic or something that might have a medicinal properties to it or like antioxidant properties, it's going to lose those properties through oxidation and air. So you really want to pay attention and try new things, maybe share things when you're buying them at a grocery store or at a restaurant. So multiple people, portioning it out obviously safely, can try new flavors, and then you can recreate it at home, look for recipes to try to do it on your own. Because I find if you tried a new vegetable or a new fruit and you don't know how to prepare it, you may not really know if you like it or don't like it if you made it wrong. if you've ever had a mealy banana or mealy apple, a lot of you probably would not choose a mealy apple, but we often have crispy apples, so we know what they should be like. But if it's a fruit or vegetable you've never come across before and you're really trying to be adventurous, you really want a little bit of an experienced person letting you know what it's going to be like, or trying it from maybe a deli counter or a restaurant who knows how to prepare it. And then you have a good base and understanding what it should taste like. Okay. And of course, a little plug on National Dietitians Day, that don't forget to ask your doctor for a referral to a dietitian if you feel that you're not meeting your needs on your own. And talk to the doctor. Weight is only one parameter that we look for. You can be a healthy weight and still be very unhealthy nutritionally. So I really want you to pay attention to what you're eating, making sure that you're getting in the nutrients you need and keeping that healthy body weight. Okay. The eatright.org website has a bunch of recipes, though the internet is loaded with them. You want to be careful of the source and making sure they're giving you the nutritional values associated with them. And you really have to be careful where you get your nutrition information, because you could, seek something out on the internet and probably get about 20 different answers to whether it's something you should or should not eat. And you really want to make sure you're personalizing that and not just saying, are bananas good? Are they good for me? And really seeing, is that a good choice that I should be making when you're looking at my overall diet? And then you can never underscore physical activity. We're not going to touch too much on it today, but Jack LaLanne and Braggs were considered like the gurus of fitness and nutrition back in the day. And they said that nutrition and exercise are like a king and queen, and together they make a healthy kingdom. And it's really true. If we only have exercise in our life and not a healthy diet, or vice versa, we're not going to get the best bang for our overall healthy lifestyle and longevity. Okay. So we want to keep it really simple. I think what people do way too often is try to make nutrition hard. If they feel like, almost like, if I'm not feeling the burn, it's not working for me. And really, if you focus on the majority of your food coming from whole foods, and I don't mean the grocery store, so I'm not syndicating that, but the whole vegetable or the whole fruit or whole grains, it's even in the word there, and your unprocessed proteins, this is going to give you that really solid foundation of a nutritional health. Okay. Now, focusing on whole fruits, I do have a couple slides that whole fruits are great. However, as we get older, accessibility, things get in the way of potentially getting a really good whole fruit. And I have some research showing that the fresh, canned, and frozen are all excellent sources of fruit and vegetables that will really help you maximize your intake of them without sacrificing the quality of the nutrition that you're going to be getting. You want to vary your veggies. I love that little saying. And the more variety, the better. Almost all vegetables are just chocked full of antioxidants, fiber, just nutrients. And you want to make sure that if you're varying them, maybe by season, you're going to get the best flavors. You're going to get the best pricing, and you're naturally going to give yourself a rhythm of different nutrients that your body can maximize its use of on a yearly basis. Okay. Making half your grains whole grains. Now that's the kind of basic standard. However, if you're able to, making all your whole grains all your grains whole grain, that would be an excellent choice. And now more than ever, I have to say that whole grains, like breads, I used to early on in my practice say, if you stay away from white bread, but now food scientists have become so savvy with how they process grains. You can get a whole grain product that almost makes you feel like, my husband says, like you're cheating. If you really don't like that earthy, grainy, chunky type of whole grain. I like it in some of my breads, but when it comes to certain pastas, I really like it to be like the regular pasta, but I don't want to miss out on the extra protein and fiber and all the nutrients that are come with that whole grain. And then trying different grains like quinoa or bulgur or barley. You know, they're not new grains, but they may be new to your preparation of them. Varying your protein, same thing. There's a lot of different lean protein options out there. All of your fish, your chicken, there's lean beef now that you can even buy that's leaner than a lot of chicken options, even ground. So you want to pay attention to what types of proteins you're buying, but making sure you're getting in the proteins. Eggs are an excellent source of protein, and we're kind of really debunking the problem that, they were the culprits of raising our cholesterol. So you really want to be able to incorporate a wide variety of these things. And I think eggs are probably the most commonly consumed at breakfast, while vegetables are not. And I often recommend to people, if we can marry those two together and make more omelet type foods and spread them out, you can really get the good protein and your vegetables at any meal of the day. It's easy to prepare, especially if it's like a day you don't feel up to cooking too much. It's a one skillet type process. You can even use leftover, say, spinach salad from the night before to incorporate into your omelet type creations. So it's just kind of rethinking how you're doing things. And, in that whole scenario right there, not only did you get great nutrients, you avoided food waste as well. So I like to accomplish a lot of different goals all in a couple processes. And then move to low fat and fat free milk and yogurt. So there's a bit of controversy here whether we should be eating fat free dairy or low fat dairy or full fat dairy. It's probably the biggest controversy in my career so far, besides knowing how much vitamin D we need more of that. So if wherever you are with the dairy, I would say it's more important that you can try to consume the dairy than avoid it altogether unless you're lactose intolerant, because whey protein is excellent for aging muscle and helping you build aging muscle. So I am a proponent that you should be getting in whey. Now, cheese is not necessarily in that category. Cheese is more on the unhealthy side of things. So when we talk about dairy, I really want to emphasize on yogurt and milk. And then drinking and eating less sodium. Now that sounds funny, drinking less sodium, but a lot of beverages even have sodium in them, saturated fats, and even more importantly now, trans fats. And I think it's funny because had I talked to you all about 10, 15 years ago and I said the word trans fat, nobody would know what that means. But now we know, we may not know the chemical equation of it, but we know that it's an unhealthy fat. And it's actually even kind of proving to be more unhealthy than the saturated fats. So we want to really get trans fats out. And then added sugar, same thing. We always have probably known too much sugar is not the best thing. But now more and more research is saying the more we can eliminate added sugar from our diet, the better. And I do have some slides later on added sugar, but that is a very confusing topic to a lot of people. So I do want to get to that to try to help explain that a little bit more and what you should and should not be worried about. So here's the plate, the choosemyplate.gov. It's a website that you all can access. It's free. There's a million different resources on it. You can really dive into so many different foods and why they're important and nutrients that they offer. But I want to call out that half of this plate is fruits and vegetables. And you can see that even vegetables are even more than fruit. And if some of you have diabetes or are trying to watch your calories even more, if you even wanted to make your vegetables a larger portion of that plate, that would be okay. You don't necessarily want to make the fruit portion that much bigger. You want to keep it there or make the veggies bigger, because fruit comes along with a lot of natural sugar. It's not added to it. If it's a whole fruit, the natural sugars in there are not the ones they're talking about contributing to our health problems in America. Those are natural sugars. Where they can get confused with the other sugars is that if you have diabetes, any sugar can raise blood sugar, no matter if it's natural or added. And fruit comes with about 3 times as many calories as vegetables, your non-starchy vegetables. So if you overate fruits, it could contribute to too many calories in your day. So that's where this fruit gets this kind of bad rap. But I wouldn't be afraid of fruit. I'm a huge proponent of fruit. And I recommend that half your plate comes from those 2 categories. Then you can see grains. They're not a villain like a lot of people think right now. Protein, and then your dairy source on a regular basis. Now, if I were to have drawn this picture, I would have also added another circle on the other side to say a nice, good glass of water, because you can never forget your water. All right. So a healthy diet plan, I think nobody's shocked that these are the 4 heavy hitters when we talk about nutrition and health. If you eat a healthy diet, no matter what happens with your weight, if you put good fuel into your body, you're reducing your risk of heart disease. You're reducing your risk of diabetes. You are reducing your risk of quite a few cancers and helping you avoid being overweight or obese. Hands down. So you don't need to go look up fancy research articles or journals or watch it on the Today Show or any, infomercial in the middle of the night. If you eat healthy, you will be healthier on the inside. Okay. So you won't necessarily see it tomorrow. And that's the problem with nutrition. You don't feel it. It takes time to eventually develop in your system. So sometimes we lose each other. So here's the portion sizes for the fruits and veggies. So it's about 1 to 2 cups of fruit a day. I personally recommend berries at least as one of those fruits for the day because they're just so nutrient dense. They're parts of so many different diets that are known to improve your heart, your brain, your neurologic function, your vasculature in general. So I recommend of those, you get at least some berries in. They can be fresh, they can be frozen, but just try to incorporate them. And then 1.5 cups to 3 cups of vegetables a day. And I would like to see some dark colored vegetables, your oranges, your reds, your purples, and your greens. If you hate vegetables, trying to figure out ways that you can sneak them in places, even if you cooked up, say, spinach, sauteed spinach, and you blended it and put it into maybe a red sauce, or you didn't add any flavor to it. You just had the raw spinach leaves and you threw that into a smoothie. Raw spinach is very bland and it blends up well. So it's not something you can typically hide if you have kids, because it will change the color of a potential smoothie or creation like that. But it typically won't change the taste or texture much. All right. So this is the recommendation, but this is the reality. All right. And I know this slide's a little blurry and I apologize, but you can tell that the dark black bars, the rectangles, are the recommended intake for people. And on the left, it's male, and on the right, it's female. And it's from young to old. Okay, so it goes from like 2 years old to 70 plus on the right. And the circle, sadly, are how far we are off from meeting those nutrient needs or those fruit needs on a regular basis. Both men and women aren't really even coming close, except when they're very, very young. So you can see the only category that actually hits the mark is 2 and below. And after that toddler age, we don't hit our nutrient needs for our fruits and vegetables. Okay, so we have a bit of room to improve. Now here is the plug that I was talking about. This is for canned and frozen nutrient analysis compared to fresh. So a lot of people think that fresh is the only thing I should consume and it's not worth my time. But when we look at the mineral content of canned and frozen fruit, calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, sodium, zinc, and copper were all almost equivocal to the light bar, which is, I'm sorry, I'm explaining it wrong. Canned and frozen are all equal of your minerals, and they were 190% or to 100% equal to our fresh counterparts of all these foods that they compare. And then the same you can see for vitamins, except for vitamin C, A, and folate. Those kind of dropped off a little bit for canned. But if you look at frozen, again, straight across the board, you lose very little. But I will argue, if you look at this slide, how far we are from meeting our nutrient needs on a regular basis when it comes to fruits and vegetables. Even if you look at the lowest and the canned fruit losing the most vitamin C, because it's probably the most volatile to the canning process, you're still getting 50% of what you would have gotten fresh. And what people often do is if you don't have fresh, you don't eat any of it at all. In fact, the research shows that when they looked at people's healthy eating index, HEI, people who ate canned food, canned fruits and vegetables, had a healthier eating index. And it wasn't because these foods were healthier than fresh. It was that they actually consumed and ate them. So this is a real plug right now, more than ever, especially if we're, our whole dynamic of getting out to grocery stores and how we're purchasing food has changed, and even the frequency we may want to visit a store. Having a good stock of your canned products, some in your freezer and some fresh when you can, will help you guarantee that you're going to be able to get your nutrients met more readily than if you're only going to be relying on fresh for these two categories. Okay? And then fiber content. When we manipulate most of these products, you can tell fresh, frozen, and canned. When you look at pineapple, mangoes, and blueberries, they are about the same with fiber. So you don't lose the fiber. Now, certain products you're going to lose fiber because you're going to lose the skin and things, but frozen strawberries, they freeze them whole. The only thing you've lost is the stem, and I don't know if many of you actually eat the stem on purpose or not ever. Okay. So then moving to the low-fat dairy products. If you're going to avoid dairy, I want you to make sure that you're purchasing, if you're trying to get to an alternative, that you're purchasing a product that is calcium and vitamin D fortified. Okay. The other thing you want to be cautious of is, does it have protein? Now, for certain people in certain diets, you're trying to find foods, maybe if you have a kidney issue or something, you want to avoid the protein. But for the majority of us, if you're looking for a good equivocal in what you're going to get from dairy that's not from an animal, dairy is known for its calcium, its vitamin D, and its great protein. Now, like I said, that's going to be the whey protein. If you buy a soy product or a rice product or even a nut product, it's not going to have that whey in it. And that's okay. Is, vegans and, very strict vegetarians can and are very strong and can build muscle. So it's not a requirement of our body. We just know that if you tolerate it well, it's a good choice. Okay. And then eating more whole grains. So thinking about what grains am I buying? Am I trying different grains in my even baking recipes? You can buy whole grain flour. You may have to manipulate how the recipe, the portions of the flours that you use. And now if you have access to the internet, you're here right now, or over the phone, you can really look up in a recipe book or on the internet how to convert using whole grain instead of regular white flour, say, or buckwheat for your flour for your pancakes is another great one. Or pairing whole grain hot cereals with fruit and milk. Again, just like that omelet example, you're getting a lot of different nutrients all in one place. One of my favorite newer things, and I laugh to say new, to recommend to people is trying oat bran. So a lot of people eat oatmeal. A lot of people eat farina or grits, but oat bran is like a powder, like a grit or a farina when it cooks up, but it's a really nutrient-dense, protein-rich source, and it's a whole grain. But it doesn't have that oat flake texture that a lot of people, if they don't like oatmeal, really cut that out of their category. So if you're the more grits and farina type person, I really recommend that you try the oat bran as an alternative because it's a whole grain and it's more nutrient dense. And you may even want to try to cook up both and mix it in and slowly incorporate it because I am a very realistic dietitian. And if I had a bowl of farina in front of you and a bowl of oat bran, you would be able to distinguish the textures, even a little bit of the color. But it doesn't, like I said, have to hurt or be painful. You may enjoy them both. You may actually realize that the oat bran has a bit more hearty of a flavor that you would enjoy. And you can still add all of those great things to it. The other thing I like about oat bran is you can make it sweet or you can make it savory. So if you wanted to say, try to have something other than just say mashed potatoes or noodles as an accoutrement to your meat or your vegetables for a meal, oat bran's just an easy starting block. There's quinoa, there's millet, there's the barley, there's all those different other grains, but there's something a little less intimidating about oat bran that you can start with, and adding your savory flavors to it may be a great choice to get you started. Beans are the next category of protein that I'm a huge proponent of. If you do have diabetes, you ought to be careful of your portion sizes of beans because they can contribute to increasing your blood sugar. But the amazing thing about beans and peas and legumes, we call them pulses, so lentils would be in this category, is not only are they an excellent protein, they're a non-animal protein if you're trying to vary up where your proteins are coming from. They also come with a mega dose of fiber and B vitamins. So they're really a nutrient-dense food. And whether you like beans or not, you can try to get a little savvy with how you use them. Some people like a good bean soup or even a chili. Other people would turn their nose up to something like that. But if you sprinkled some garbanzo beans or red beans on a salad, they would like that. And then others would, the minute they saw a bean, they would go running. And in that case, some years ago, and if you've heard me talk, this is one of my favorite examples of how you can incorporate beans if you don't want them to be seen. I took a can of red beans and I rinsed them, and I drained them, and I blended them in a food processor, and I put them in spaghetti sauce, and they really thickened up my red sauce. And my husband couldn't even tell exactly, he couldn't put his finger on what I put in the sauce. So you can really try to incorporate beans in so many different ways. We just kind of have to think outside the box. Doesn't have to be just that 3-bean salad that you've seen everywhere that's laden in like a syrupy, sugar base. You can really get quite creative with your beans. And then seafood twice a week. So salmon, tuna, tilapia. We really want to see people getting fish at least 2 times a week. And I'm not a big supplement person, but when it comes to fish, people are also not necessarily the biggest fish eaters. So if you're not getting the 2 servings, this is when I would recommend potentially thinking about a fish oil pill as an addition to your diet. And then enjoying hard-boiled eggs as a snack or with a meal, slicing those up, having some cooked up and in the refrigerator. Remember I said kind of rethinking how your refrigerator is. You may all have some eggs in the fridge, but if you want a hard-boiled egg, it takes some steps, takes some time. So boiling up a few all at one time and having them at the ready to grab and go for a snack or to add to something or even turn into a potential egg salad is much more likely than if they're just sitting there uncooked. They're probably more likely only going to be used in baking or potentially as an actually cooked egg in a pan. So you're limiting, you take this one item and you really expand the usage of it just by having it in your refrigerator at the ready. And I don't recommend that you leave eggs cooked on the counter. I know some people do that, especially around, springtime and celebrations, but eggs need, whether they're cooked or not, need to be refrigerated. So keep that in mind. Remember, we need to make sure food safety kind of trumps it all. And then when you're looking at cuts of meat, round steaks, roasts, or skinless poultry are really your better choices because they're going to have less, not only visible fat, but the fat within the muscle of the meat itself will be a healthier choice. So now we're moving on to the food label. And on the one on the left is the one that was around for a really long time. And we finally got a new food label about a couple years ago now that really calls out the calories and the portion sizes. If you look at the label on the right, it really pops the serving size and the calories. And one of the main reasons this happened was because a lot of people might be reading the calories, but they really paid no attention to the serving size. And this particular container has 8 servings of whatever it might be. So if I haphazardly ate half the box, I would need to multiply 230 times 4. And that's how many calories I actually ate. And the same thing with fat. And the sodium is 4 times as high. And the carbohydrates are 4 times as high. The fiber would be a good thing that would be high. But you really want to be aware of, if you're reading the label, you're really putting some meat to it and that it means something. That the portion sizes are really connected to what you're consuming. I know for years we talked about, I told people, eat a handful of nuts. And I have larger hands, and I realized one day, if I grabbed a handful of nuts, which is supposed to be equal to about a quarter cup, what would I actually get with my handful? And I found out I almost got a cup of nuts the way I was cupping my hand all these years. So while nuts are not a bad thing, and eating a cup of nuts is not a bad thing, the bad thing is if you only are thinking you're eating a quarter cup and you're wondering why you're not losing weight or not meeting your nutrition goals, then that's something that kind of slipped through the radar, okay? So what we want to look at is the number of calories. Your nutrients are in bold. And then there's a footnote that most people don't pay much attention to. And this means that all of these things, these percentages are based on a 2,000 calorie diet. So what people need. Now, most older adults need about 1,600 calories, but the vitamins and minerals are still going to be for an adult. All right. So I usually tell people don't pay too much attention to the percentages, or if there's a particular thing you need to look at, like your sodium, or the doctor said increase your fiber, really be deliberate about what you're looking at. Or some people really like looking at calories, some people don't. If you're trying to increase the amount of vitamin D in your diet, you'll find out most things with a food package label don't have much D in them. It's usually a fortified food. And that's one of the other nutrients besides the fish oils that I recommend people consider taking. And you need a minimum of 800 IUs per day if you're over 70. But the upper limit of safety is 4,000. And unless you have some really specific reason you need to limit the vitamin D in your diet because of some random medication or disease state, which would be rare, I really like to keep people in that range and have them check their vitamin D on a yearly basis to make sure that you're getting adequate D all year long. Now that we're on Zoom, people may have tapped in from California or all over the globe, which is really cool. But if you're living here locally in Chicago, we only get enough D from the sun for a couple months in the summertime. So we need an active source all year round. And food is not very prevalent in it. So unless you're even if you're drinking dairy, I should say, fortified dairy, we typically, most of us need a supplement. Okay. All right. So nutrients we typically need more of, and you can see I wrote vitamin D, but calcium, iron, and potassium. So they used to be focusing on, you can see here, A, C, calcium, and iron. And now, as the years have gone on, these have become more of the nutritional problems of our country. Fiber, we're not getting enough fiber. We're not getting enough D, calcium, iron, and potassium. So we really want to make sure we are focusing on this. Now, I will say potassium, one of the best sources of potassium is from your fruits and vegetables, and they don't typically have a food label. So you shouldn't be alarmed, say a product like this only has 6%. We really want to get our potassium from our fruits and vegetables. Okay? And then these are the ones we want to limit. Your saturated fat, your trans fat, sodium, and I want to call out the added sugar. Okay, so this product says 12 grams of sugar, and it includes 10 grams of added sugar. So to me, that's telling me it's probably not a fruit. It's probably a processed food that's maybe like little muffins, or it's a third of a cup. So maybe it's like a granola or something where they've added the sugar to it because it's added sugar. Now, when you look at a carton of milk, it itself will say 12 grams of sugar. But unless it's chocolate milk or something, that would be different. But just a regular carton of milk will have 12 grams of sugar. But the added sugar will be 0 because milk has natural sugar called lactose. And just like fruits have fructose and things, milk has its own sugar. So that is not an added sugar to be afraid of. Now, if you're doing the chocolate milks and the strawberries and things like that, those added calories from sugar or those actual added grams of sugar are the problem, but not the actual natural sugars. Those are not contributing to the problems that we're having. Okay. And then your trans fats and your saturated fats are underneath the total fat. So for this product, if you were looking at fat, we want to avoid all trans fats. So 0 is great. Saturated fats, we know we kind of limit those. So this particular product, and they don't have to declare it yet, but has a good source of mono and poly unsaturated fats, because it says it has 8 grams total, which means that 7 of them are the healthier fats. Some labels will declare that, some won't. They don't have to by law. So that's how you would interpret it. It has 1 gram of saturated, the other 7 are from the healthy fats. So that's a good thing for this food label specifically. And then sodium. So we only want 2,300 milligrams of sodium a day at best. And a lot of research, like the DASH diet research, says we want to try to get to 1,500 milligrams a day. So if you take the 1,500 milligram, this is more than 10% in this one serving of the product. So you really want to be careful to buy the reduced sodium, the no added sodium. And herein lies a place where you may not miss the sodium in some of your canned vegetables. Some are, especially tomatoes, don't have the sodium in them because they're so acidic already. So just take a look at the products you're buying and have that 2,300 number in your head and say, I really don't want to go over that. There are certain places you're going to miss salt, but then there's other places where if you got creative with your herbs, like dill and garlic and onion powders, you can buy the fresh or, the minced garlic in a jar, but even those powders, your herbs without added salt, will really mask the lack of sodium that might be in something. A couple months ago, we ran out of taco seasoning mix. My kids liked this one taco seasoning. I didn't have any taco seasoning at all. And I just looked up a recipe and I happened to have all the spices and it didn't call for salt. And everybody loved it. They wondered what new brand taco seasoning I bought. And I was proud to say I made it, for one. And I was even more elated that it was a salt-free taco seasoning. And, it happened by accident because I didn't have it, but now we don't buy taco seasoning anymore. I just keep using that recipe. So that's an exciting find. They're not all exciting. I've botched a bunch of recipes, but, you can't win if you don't try. So I really encourage you to try different flavors on your foods. If you're buying steamed vegetables, or vegetables you will steam, if you add herbs to it before you microwave it or steam it, it will help infuse those flavors into it versus saying adding a Mrs. Dash type of product after you cook it. Add it before. And products like Mrs. Dash that are salt-free seasonings are also a great way to start. And then read the ingredient label to see what types of flavors are there. I'm sure all of you at one point have said, I love this taste, but there's just this one off herb in there that I don't care for. So really looking at these things and teasing it out and then creating your own, again, is going to get you even a better profile that you're really going to enjoy, instead of looking at it saying, oh, I just can't have my salt. So in conclusion, it is never, ever, ever too late to be healthy again. I think it's a daunting statement, too, to say that every single time you put something in your mouth, you can be healthier or unhealthier. For some of us, that's too many choices in one day. But it's all very liberating to not look back, only look forward and know that it's okay if you trip, if you fall, and you make mistakes with your healthy living, healthy diet, your physical activity, because you can always start. And you can start to eliminate some of the wrongs that's happened by building from where you are today. Use incredible resources for your information. Don't waste time on some magic bullet or quackery. If it's too good to be true, it probably is not true. And then if you're going to bother reading the food labels, really use them to your advantage. But the best types of foods typically don't have one at all. And that, again, makes it that much simpler because you don't have to even read the label in the first place. So I don't know how we want to do questions.
Yes,
I
perfect.
see that things were popping.
First of all, thank you so much. That was so well done. I feel like you just made it so much more approachable to change our lifestyle and how we approach eating healthy. So thank you for that. We have a few questions online already, but before we get to that, I want to start off with anyone who's on the phone. If you have a question, you can go ahead and unmute yourself now and ask. And then we'll go to the online questions, and then we'll give you one more opportunity to unmute yourself. So right now, if you have a question and you're over the phone, you can click *67 and unmute yourself. Hi.
Hi, this is Paula. I just had a really quick question, please. I've been struggling tremendously with decreasing my sugar intake. I'm a big sweet person, and I was wondering if you had any insight for how to get those cakes and cookies out of your life.
Well, so that can be very personalized, depending on if you are somebody who can tolerate a smaller portion or if you have to eliminate it altogether out of your house. So some people can effectively eat a smaller portion and enjoy it if they're replacing it with something else. So if you have, like a cake and you are able to take maybe half of the size of cake, but then add berries on the side or something else sweet that is a natural sugar, that sometimes is a good segue of weaning yourself away from it. Okay. While other people would say, there's no way I'm going to eat the whole thing no matter what. And in that regard, then really starting off with something like berries and even some whipped topping on the berries. And if it's something like chocolate, trying to shift yourself to really only allowing yourself chocolates that have that 70% or better cocoa in them. So you're still going to have to watch the portion sizes. But as you, instead of like cold turkeying it and knowing you're going to snap, trying to really shift in. I like to add things before I take them away. So like adding in the fruit is still sweet. It's adding in volume, and you're not 100% sacrificing the choice. Frozen Greek yogurt can also, if you buy plain Greek yogurt where it doesn't have the added sugar in it, and you add in your controlled amount of added sugars. So even if you're adding something like a granola, but then the majority, maybe you're adding in, again, a fruit or something that you can control how much sugar is being added to it, is another great way of trying to kind of curb that.
Thank you, Kristen.
So
Thank you for your question.
Oh, very good. Could I guess the question?
Yes, go ahead.
How are you? It's excellent speech. It's Peter. I come to most of your. What was the nutritionist's name? I'm sorry, I came in 2 minutes late.
I'm Kristen, the dietitian.
Oh, Kristen, you're very good, Kristen. Excellent. I was wondering,
Thank
you
you.
rate these potatoes? I'm supposed to be on a low sodium. Low carbs, and yet potatoes. I feel like if I don't eat wheat bread or potatoes, I'm hungry all the time. Do you recommend, and also wheat thins, is that good, or sardines, protein bars? I don't know if they're good or bad.
So it depends on why you need to avoid the carbs.
What
was the main
a minor heart issue. Well,
okay. So
mitral valve leak is what it is.
Okay. So what we typically, if you're still hungry, and you're being told to avoid carbs,
right?
The reason why you're getting hungry is a lot of times is that you're lacking enough fat to keep you satisfied. So
right.
We even have people following like a ketogenic diet and things where they have virtually minimal carbs in their diet, but they're increasing good fats like avocado, and that's great for your heart. olive
Mhm.
oil in your preparation, avocado oil in your preparation, and
Mhm.
adding those types of foods in while you're peeling back on carbs is a better way to go about that. And then whole
Mhm.
grains will give you more vitamins and minerals in the
Mhm.
actual grain itself. But then again, maybe having that with some healthy fat on it, like avocado toast, or even dipping
Uh-huh.
a smaller amount of bread in olive oil. Again, all portion control is important. But those are ways that you can kind of have a little bit of it, but then because you're eliminating the volume, that fat is going
Mhm.
to help keep you satisfied at the same time.
Right. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, and thank you for your question. All right, so we'll go ahead and, oh, it looks like someone else unmuted themselves, so go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, my name is Melinda, and thank you so much for providing these very helpful presentations. With chronic kidney disease, I am told to avoid grains, and so what is there? Are there certain types of grains that would be okay to eat having chronic kidney disease?
So do you have diabetes too?
No.
Or were they recommending keeping away the grains because of the sodium in it?
That could be. I don't know. My sodium levels are good. So I don't
Because
know.
usually with chronic kidney disease, we don't necessarily, it's more that you have to watch out how much protein that you're consuming. So kidneys and
Okay.
protein. So that's why I'm just asking a couple more questions about it. But it's okay to avoid, for whatever reason, if you're avoiding grains, it's okay to avoid them, but it's what are you replacing them with? So again, with kidneys,
Right.
are you looking at, do you have to watch how much potassium or phosphorus you're getting? Those are other nutrients with kidney issues some of us have to be mindful of. Are you on dialysis?
No, my potassium is good. My phosphorus levels are slightly high, but
Okay.
otherwise potassium, sodium is good.
Okay, so your
So it's like,
phosphorus
what
is
do I replace it with?
your phosphorus, you want to avoid like dairy, because that's high in phosphorus, and you have to be careful of beans. Those are high in phosphorus as well.
Okay.
So avoiding the grains, I'm just curious, again, that it's not necessarily that it's not true, but it's what specific piece of that they were saying to avoid the grains. Typically, we avoid grains because that's where a number of our sodium milligrams comes from is our grains, like breads and things. So you want to try to buy, like, because bulgur wouldn't be high in sodium if you just bought it and you cooked it up. Quinoa wouldn't be one I would typically recommend people avoiding. If you're limiting your protein, though, quinoa is an excellent protein too. So it's a hard question to answer without knowing exactly what part of that grain they want you to avoid. Those are some of my speculations. Would be salt, and some of these whole grains like your quinoa would have high protein. But if you're saying your protein's okay, then I'd need a little bit more detail to answer that a bit more concisely.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for your question. And we're going to go ahead and to some of the online questions, and then we'll have another opportunity for those of you over the phone to unmute yourself. So the first one was a thank you to you for putting this together, Kristen. So thank you.
You're welcome.
The next question was, do you recommend adding bread to your meals sometimes? If so, what brand do you recommend? I have heard many healthcare professionals say we should stay away from bread.
Okay. I'm a pretty lenient dietitian. I also love bread. So if people are really wanting bread in their diet, I really say, well, what else are you doing that you can make room for bread? All right. If you're asking me what type of bread is healthy, I think the best breads have the least amount of preservatives. Okay. There's research saying that propionate, it's a food preservative, may not be the best for our bodies and the way we metabolize nutrients. So the less processed, the best, and the more whole grain in it, the better. So the whole grain doesn't necessarily mean 12 grain or 9 grain or 5 grain. It means, does it have the whole grain in it? And those would be the two things that I would look for. So if you're looking just at a label, because there's a million types of breads out there, you want to look for the word whole grain. You want to look for the word fiber and how many grams of fiber are in it. Being cautious that it's not saying 100% whole wheat or 100% rye, because that just means that's the type of grain that's in that product, but it doesn't mean it has all the best parts of that grain in it. So those are like the savvy things to look for as a consumer.
That was so helpful.
Thank you
last
for the question.
The last question we have online: should people who have a trach stay away from cheese and dairy-based foods?
So that is not my specialty area. As far as I can remember back to when I would work with people with tracheas, was dairy causes an increased mucus for a lot of people. So it can get a little bit harder and a little bit more thick mucus if you're consuming those products. So that would be my suggestion or recommendation of why people might avoid them. But I would definitely go back to your care provider and say, for me, is that something that I need to avoid? Or is there a safe way to consume it? But that's usually the reason why people might avoid dairy.
Great. And we'll give one last opportunity for those of you who've joined over the phone. If you have any questions or comments, you can feel free to unmute now.
You guys have great questions. It's always tricky just to talk to a screen and not be able to see everybody's faces.
Yeah, you're doing great. All right, so it looks like that was all the questions. Thank you so much for such a great lecture. I can tell by the comments and the questions that we got that it really spoke to people. So thank you so much. And
Awesome.
we're going to go ahead and share some of our upcoming programs. So for those of you who are joining in over the phone, if you have a pen or a pencil with you, that might be helpful. All right. So first and foremost, for the vaccine. So I know, it's possible that many of you have gotten the vaccine already, or maybe you're trying to get an appointment, and it can be kind of tricky. So first and foremost, just want to let you know that if you visit our Rush website, that's rush.edu, there's information on there on not only getting an appointment for a vaccination, but more information about the vaccine itself and its safety, some common questions that can be very helpful. So just a reminder to visit rush.edu for more information about the vaccine and getting an appointment. Next, we have our Take Charge of Your Health workshop. So this is a workshop that's all about learning how to care for your chronic conditions and how to take better care of yourself by learning more, including learning how to read a nutrition label like we learned today, and other great tips and facts, as well as how to achieve your goals. So it's a really great opportunity. And this will be on Thursdays from March 18th until April 29th from 10 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And this program and all the programs we'll be sharing will be done virtually, which just means it'll be done online or over the phone. And so if you're interested in this program, but you haven't really done anything online yet, that's okay. Our team is here to help you get comfortable with using the technology too. So if you're interested in the Take Charge of Your Health workshop, again, Thursdays from March 18th till April 29th from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., you can call our toll-free number, the Rush Generations toll-free number, which is 800-757-0202. And that'll be the number for all of these programs we're going to share today if you want to register. We also have the Take Charge of Your Health workshop taking place in Spanish for all of the Rush Generations members and community members who speak Spanish. This will be on Tuesdays from April 6th until May 18th from 1 to 3:30 p.m. Again, this will be done through Zoom, so it'll be done online. And if you'd like to register, you can call 800-757-0202. Next, we have our chair strength class. So this will be done virtually on Mondays from March 22nd till May 10th from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. So it's a total of 8 sessions of this fitness class, and it's $40 for all the 8 sessions. If that's too much and that's something you can't afford, but you are interested in taking the class, there are scholarships available too. So if you're interested, whatever the case may be, if you are interested in taking the class, you can call the toll-free number at 800-757-0202. And by calling the number, you would be getting registered and you'd get the information for how to join online also. Next, we have the Gentle Chair Yoga Fitness class that will also be done online on Thursdays from March 25th until May 13th. This is from 11 a.m. until 12 p.m. Again, the Gentle Chair Yoga class. This is also 8 sessions for $40, and the same thing goes. So if $40 is something that you cannot afford right now, there are scholarships available. So if you're interested in the Gentle Chair Yoga class, you can call 800-757-0202. Next, we have the Art for Emotional Wellness class. So this is a really great opportunity to learn from students about very different art modalities, and then you also get to practice those techniques yourself too. So it's a really great opportunity. It'll be on Thursdays from April 1st until April 22nd from 1 to 2:30 p.m. Again, this will be done through Zoom on Thursdays from 1 to 2:30 p.m., April 1st till April 22nd. Next, we have our Health Legacy program for women. So this is another great workshop to learn how to take good care of your health, but not only your health, but how improving your health is the legacy that you can leave for your family too. So improving the health for your family as well. So if you're interested in joining the Health Legacy program for women, this will be on Mondays and Wednesdays from March 31st until May 12th from 3 to 5 p.m. This will also be through Zoom. And to register, the same toll-free number, which is 800-757-0202. We also have a couple support groups that you can join. The first is called Coping and Connection in the Time of COVID. And so this is a really great support group that's done over the phone. It's by 2 of our social workers on the team. And it's an opportunity for you to talk about the stresses that come with this new time of COVID. And another opportunity for you to connect with others and share your stress as well. So this is the 3rd Wednesday of every month from 3 to 4 p.m. Again, you can get the information by calling our toll-free number. Next, we have our Diabetes Education and Support Group. So this is just like the way it sounds, about learning more about diabetes and also being with people who are also have diabetes and being able to engage in that support. So this is the 3rd Thursday of every month from 2 to 3 p.m. Again, you can call our toll-free number for that information. We also have our Senior Connections Friendly Caller program. So this is a really great opportunity for you to receive a call every week from a volunteer. And so this is just really just having someone that you can chat with every week, just to talk about whatever it is you want to talk about, and you get to schedule, what time works best for you for that call. So if you're interested in being a part of the Friendly Caller program, you can call our toll-free number at 800-757-0202. Next, we have the Rush Caregiver Initiative. So this is great if you're a caregiver or if you have a caregiver. This is an opportunity for customized support for you. So it starts off with an assessment, learning what your needs are, and then they make a custom program and a custom approach for whatever it is that you need. So if you're interested in the Caregiver Initiative, you can call the Caregiver Initiative, and that number is 312-563-0350. Again, that's 312-563-0350. And lastly, our Shaman Senior Voices program. So you may feel more and more, familiar with that name, Shaman Senior Voices. So Shaman Senior Voices is a program that's all about learning what matters most to you. So what's most important to you as you age. And so we try to learn from you and learn from your perspectives and your stories. And then we use that information to educate our healthcare students, our healthcare professionals, and have conversations about aging in the community. We also use this so we have a better understanding of what programs we should offer. So if you would like to share your perspective with us about what matters most to you as you age, we encourage you to share it by recording a video. So this is just a 60-second video that you can do online. And you would just visit bit.ly/recordmystory. So bit.ly/recordmystory. And by going to that website, you can go ahead and start recording and tell us what matters most to you. For those of you who may have a smartphone with you, if you just open up your camera and you point it at that code over there, it'll take you to the website also. So that's what that code is for. All right, and just one last time, our toll-free number is up. It's 800-757-0202. So if you're interested in any of these programs or you'd like to let us know about something you'd like to get connected with, please do give Rush Generations a call. Again, the number is 800-757-0202. You can also visit Rush Generations on Facebook, where we post our upcoming programs and events. Thank you again for joining our lecture. We're so happy to have had you, and have a good rest of your